What's up, Dylan Sigley here. In this video, we're gonna get into the top 4 mistakes I made in my first 4 years of online business. So you can learn from these mistakes and implement the lessons from them into your own journey to grow your business and get results that much faster. Have you ever felt like building a real online business that drives consistent results, freedom, and control? Online business can feel uncertain, confusing, and overwhelming, but what if you had the vision, mindset, and actions to get from A to B and building your online business step by step so you can live a life of freedom, consistency, and control? Before we get into the video, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so that when I release more marketing strategies, tactics, and stories, you'll get notified. When building an online business, you need resources, right? You have time, energy, and money. First of all, you need the time to actually put in the work to build the systems and structures that generate the revenue, and then you need the energy to actually bring yourself to the point where you put in that time of focused effort, and then finally the money, right? To invest cash in the software, people, and marketing to build your business. So the first mistake I made in online business was quitting my part-time job too early. And you're going to learn why this was a mistake, but let's get into this a little bit deeper, right? So most people think that time is the most important resource when it comes to building an online business. Logically, you have 24 hours in a day, so you assume the more hours you can put into your business, the faster it will grow. But in reality, money and energy are just as important as time. Now, the reason it's a problem to overemphasize time in building an online business is because time is limited by energy. Energy is a limiting factor when it comes to time. So you can only put in so much energy each day into a certain amount of time, which means within 24 hours, you're not going to be able to put 24 hours of time, if you had that much time to put into it, in building your online business. There's only so much time you can focus every single day to work on the online business. So in reality, time is really limited by energy, and you can maximize your energy to a certain point, but you're never really going to go beyond a certain limit. And it's different for everyone. Some people are insane and can work a lot, but no one can work 24/7, and most people just end up getting stressed out and burnt out and procrastinating if they try. So because of energy, you can only put so much time into a task, and then using money, you can scale up that time, right? So you can build the system, then you can put money into it to automate it, take yourself out of the system, and then scale up the size of that system, the volume that it's able to produce, whether it be marketing, putting out your offer more, or production, producing more of your service. So in terms of energy, it makes the total amount of productive time you can spend on a task finite. Let's say, for example, you maximize the level of energy and focus you're able to produce on a daily basis. And at that maximized level, you can put in 6 hours of deep work, focused work, right? Well, freeing up more of your time, freeing up 8 hours, 10 hours, 12 hours to work on that business is not going to help, right? Because you can only put in 6 hours at your maximum energy levels. In reality, freeing up some more hours to actually do some part-time work would allow you to get more money, which means you'll be able to invest that money into the business and grow it faster. So in reality, freeing up more time so you can work on your business can actually hinder you instead of helping you, because if you've maximized how much energy you can be putting into a task, then you should start focusing on how you can get other resources such as more money, right? If you've maximized the level of energy you can devote to the amount of time that you've given yourself, then the next thing is just having enough money to invest back into the system. And that's where quitting my job was a mistake in the beginning, because I already had enough time to work on the system and I had maximized my energy level, so I was able to work as much as I possibly could on the business whilst I still had that part-time job. But like many, I made the mistake of thinking that more time is better, so I quit that job, moved in with my mom, and started building this online business, and I just found that I got the same amount done, but in more time. Now, this isn't just a problem of energy levels. This is also a problem of Parkinson's law. Work expands so as to fill the time available for its completion. The more hours you give yourself to do something, the longer it's going to take. By giving yourself a limit on how much time you're going to devote to a certain task, you'll end up getting it done faster. Now, Now let's think about money, right? So let's say we're devoting 6 hours a day to putting our offer out into the market, and we're getting a certain amount of sales from those 6 hours. But because we only have 6 hours in that day that we're able to put in that focused effort of completing the task, we're only able to put out so many offers. However, if we had some money to start investing into that system, taking ourselves out of the equation and automatically putting out that offer, whether it be on Facebook ads, LinkedIn ads, whatever it may be, you're going to get more offers going out there, increasing your volume, increasing your results without you being the barrier. You're no longer the bottleneck, because you can only devote so much time. In order to build up your business, you need to start investing money to take yourself out of the system, so you're no longer preventing growth in your business. It's not just about time, energy and money matter too. Now, with the right blueprint, you don't need much time, energy or money, but you do need to maximize each of those three resources so you can build and grow your business at maximum velocity. So just figure out what that balance is for you and then implement it to your best ability. But just remember, time, money and energy are all essential. So I thought by quitting my part-time job, I'd have more time to invest in building my online business, but really that was just a limiting belief. It was a belief that prevented me from actually putting in more effort and maybe even more hours working to get more money, so I could invest more of all three resources in my business rather than just assuming that time was the barrier. And what ended up happening when I quit that part-time job was it probably just took me a little bit longer to get the results that I could have gotten a lot faster if I had stayed in that part-time job. Because rather than having more time, I really just had less money. Because like I said, you can only put in so much time into a task each day based on how much energy you can devote to true, focused, deep work. And then anything beyond that, you'll basically take longer to complete the work because of Parkinson's law. So the lesson here is that rather than quitting a part-time job so that you have more time to invest in building your online business, you should really use that part-time job or full-time job to springboard your way into building that business. So let's say you need 100 hours to fully build the systems and structure, right? Then if you were doing a full-time job and you only had 2 hours available each day to put in true, focused, deep work into building that business, after 50 days, less than 2 months, you'd have that system fully built. And then after that system is fully built, it'll be all about investing more money into it. Once the system is fully built, time and energy are no longer the bottleneck constricting growth. It's now money. You need money to scale up that system. You don't need any more time. And that's why keeping that part-time job until you can build your business to the level that you're happy with it is the best way to go. And that way it'll take a few weeks, a few months, rather than more months. If it's taking years, I don't know, maybe you should change business models. The second mistake I made in building my online business in the first 4 years was not managing my finances well. As soon as my business was making a bit of money, I started spending it as fast as it was coming in. I wasn't keeping track of my costs, revenues, or profits, and I had no idea what was going on. I traveled the world, spent money on shopping, clothes, partied way too much, and my business was still bringing in money. So because of that, I didn't think it was an issue. I thought I could just keep going this way. But what happened in reality was my business never grew. It always stayed the same size because I was basically spending all of the money it was making rather than investing that money back into the business to grow it faster. Businesses need fuel to move forward and grow. Just like a rocket ship to go up, it needs a lot of fuel to get it past and out of the atmosphere. So what happens if you spend all of the money that your business is making is you're missing out on money in the future, right? Because your business basically produces more value from the cash you put in. If you put $1 in, you should be getting $3 out, right? So because of that, the more money you put into growing and scaling your business means you're going to get more money in the future. And by spending the money that your business is making right now, you're missing out on more money in the future. And I'm sure we would all like to grow our businesses and achieve greater scale, right? But you cannot realize this if you're already enjoying your lifestyle and having a fun time, which isn't an issue, right? You can spend money however you like, but if you want to grow your business, you need to be reinvesting the money from the business back into the business. Because cash is king. Finances are really the doctor of your business, keeping track of its health. And if you're not keeping track of its health, it may be stagnating or even worse, slowly dying. Finances really are the key to success, especially when you start scaling up your business. And the faster you realize that, the faster you'll be able to achieve greater scale. And this really was the second biggest mistake I made, and what I learned from it was just just to track all of my finances. You can find plenty of information on accounting. There's even free courses on YouTube that you can take to learn how to manage the finances for your business. And I definitely recommend doing that and keeping track so that you know how well your business is going and you can keep it growing. Mistake number 3 in building my online business was playing with things way too much. Now, what I mean by that is we assume that the more hours we put in, the better results we're going to get out. But in reality, results are not determined by how many hours of work you do, they're determined by the actions and the things that you do and the results of those things. So this mindset really just comes from being an employee of companies, right? Usually you're selling your time for money. But when we're building an online business, when we're working for ourselves, we're no longer selling our time for money. We're making money from the system that we're building. And if you play around with that system too much, you can end up breaking it, which I definitely did. Rather than determining success by how many hours you put in, determine success by what results you get from the time that you put in. So before you get started on a task, you should look at what the benchmarks are for whether you decide that this certain system or structure has failed or whether it has worked. And then if it's worked, great, keep it going. If it fails, get rid of it and move on to the next part of the structure or system. And because of this whole mindset of work for the sake of work, we can end up tinkering with systems that are already working and producing that result and then break them and create a system that is no longer working. And the reason for that is we're messing with systems that are already working. We're messing with pieces of the system already. In reality, what we should be doing is working on the new version of that system or new piece of that system in a vacuum as a completely separate entity from that working system, so we can test and make sure that that system that we're testing out is actually getting the result that we want before we replace the old system with the new. And I definitely didn't do that in the beginning. A few times in a few different areas, I played around with the thing that was already working, the thing that was already a part of the main system, and then it broke and it set me back months. One time I even turned off the marketing channel that was working best for me for 3 months as I rebuilt it from scratch, thinking that something would increase the statistics or improve the conversion rates, when in reality I got the exact same results, and really I just missed out on 3 months of revenue. And I could have avoided that completely by leaving the system working the way it was and then creating a new system as a kind of copy of that system to test and see whether that would get the same result before replacing it. And that way I wouldn't have missed out on all that revenue, I wouldn't have broke the system, and I still would have been able to test, because testing is essential in any system. You should always be trying to improve your online business, but don't tinker with the system that's already working. That's the lesson from this mistake. The 4th mistake is not automating fast enough. Now, the entire reason that we build these online businesses and get into internet marketing in the beginning is we want to get that freedom, right? We want to achieve that life of freedom. We want to be able to work from our laptops, travel around the world, do whatever we want with our time, have that freedom of time, do what we want, where we want, when we want, blah, blah, blah. But what ends up happening is often we get too caught up in the source. We work on the business too much and we essentially just create a job for ourselves. And this is all just set in an ego, believing that we can do the things better than anyone else and that we're the only one that's able to get the results, when in reality what you're doing everyone else is already doing, and they're probably doing it better than you. So you can certainly find other people to handle those tasks for you. And the reason that this is a mistake is because it prevents you from scaling up the business, first of all, because in order to scale up a system, you can't have any one person limiting the structure of the system. You can only have systems scaling up by having multiple people handling one thing, because you can only put in so many hours into a given system or a given task. If you have multiple people handling a given system or task, they're going to be able to multiply those hours by the number of people, right? Which means you're going to be able to handle more projects, which means you're going to be able to put your offer out there more and get more results, scale up your business faster, and better yet, by putting the people and software in place to handle the systems for you, you're going to take yourself out of the system and attain that freedom. And that was a mistake I made. I was automating throughout my journey in the first 4 years, but I wasn't automating fast enough. You can automate very fast. You can automate from the beginning if you know what you're doing and you have the right blueprint. Now, when you're learning anything new or going about any new journey, mistakes are bound to happen, because mistakes are the way we learn things and move forward and grow. But the way you're going to get there faster is by failing fast forward. Take so much action that you do make these mistakes and then you learn from them and move forward, and that way you're going to grow so much faster than anyone else out there. Don't be afraid to fail. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. As long as you get back up, learn from the mistake, and move forward, you're winning and you're making progress and you're going to get there. So hopefully you can take the lessons from my mistakes and implement them into your own journey. The worst thing that can ever happen is when you make those mistakes over and over and over again. And the way you get around that is just keep track of the biggest mistakes you make again and again and again, and make sure you don't take the actions or behave in a way that leads to those mistakes, and that way you'll be able to learn. It's all about self-awareness, keeping track of what you do and improving what you do on a daily basis. So that's the video, guys. Look forward to seeing you on the next one. Talk to you soon.